Women over 60 never accept any older man who says these 5 phrases. There's a moment in every mature woman's dating journey when she realizes that some of the most dangerous words aren't shouted in anger or delivered with obvious cruelty. They're spoken softly, reasonably, even kindly, by men who have perfected the art of sounding caring while systematically avoiding real commitment. Welcome back to 60 Wise Living Advice. If you've ever found yourself making excuses for a man's behavior because his words sounded so reasonable, if you've wondered why you feel unsettled despite his gentle explanations, or if you're ready to finally understand the difference between genuine communication and sophisticated emotional manipulation, then hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell right now. We're building a community of women who have lived long enough to recognize that the most dangerous men aren't the obviously bad ones. They're the ones who've learned to use the right words to keep you hoping while never actually delivering on those hopes. Today, I'm exposing 5 specific phrases that sound caring, reasonable, even protective on the surface, but are actually calculated ways that emotionally unavailable men keep you emotionally invested while avoiding giving you what you truly deserve. These aren't obvious red flags. They're red flags disguised as green lights, and they're designed to make you question your own instincts about what you should expect from love. Maya Angelou warned us, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. The challenge is that these men don't show you who they are through obvious actions. They reveal themselves through carefully chosen words that sound like everything you want to hear, while meaning nothing you need them to mean.
I'm not ready for anything serious right now. There's something profoundly heartbreaking about hearing these words from a man who has lived 6, 7 decades on this earth. At our age, we understand that readiness isn't something that happens to us. It's something we choose. When a mature man tells you he's not ready, he's revealing something far deeper than his current emotional state. He's showing you his fundamental approach to love, commitment, and the precious time we have left. Think about what readiness truly means at this stage of life. We've all experienced loss, heartbreak, disappointment. We've learned that tomorrow isn't guaranteed, that health can change overnight, that the people we love can be taken from us without warning. In the face of these truths, what could not being ready possibly mean except a choice to remain closed to the very connections that make life meaningful? This phrase sounds reasonable on the surface. After all, shouldn't people be honest about where they are emotionally? But here's the painful truth you need to understand. When a man over 60 says this to you, he's often telling you something specific about how he sees you and your place in his life. Not ready frequently means not ready with you specifically. If tomorrow he met someone who truly captured his heart and imagination, his readiness would miraculously appear. This phrase becomes his way of keeping you available for all the benefits of a relationship: companionship when he's lonely, intimacy when he desires it, emotional support when he needs it, while maintaining the freedom to walk away without guilt or responsibility when someone more appealing enters his life. He's essentially asking you to be his placeholder, while he continues shopping for something better. Patricia, 64, spent 2 precious years of her life with a man who wielded this phrase like a shield against commitment. Every time I brought up our future or where we were heading together, Michael would say he wasn't ready for anything serious. He'd hold my hand while he said it, look into my eyes with what seemed like genuine regret, and I'd feel selfish for wanting more. But when I finally found the strength to step back and focus on my own life, he was engaged to someone else within 6 months. He wasn't not ready. He just wasn't ready with me. What makes this phrase particularly devastating is that it masquerades as honesty and consideration for your feelings. In reality, it's profoundly selfish, a way of enjoying all the emotional and physical benefits of your connection while refusing to offer you the security, commitment, and forward movement you deserve. It's asking you to give your heart while he keeps his carefully guarded. At our age, when time has become our most precious commodity, accepting "I'm not ready" is accepting that you'll never be someone's priority, never be the person they choose to build their remaining years around. You deserve someone who doesn't need to get ready to love you, someone who sees you and thinks, "Yes, this is exactly who I want to spend my precious time with."
Let's just see where this goes. There's a cruel poetry to this phrase. It sounds so open, so organic, so beautifully free of pressure. But beneath its casual surface lies one of the most sophisticated forms of relationship manipulation: the art of keeping someone emotionally invested while refusing to invest yourself. When you truly understand what this phrase means, you'll never accept it again. At our stage of life, we've learned something profound about how meaningful relationships actually develop. They don't just go somewhere on their own, like leaves floating down a stream. They are cultivated, nurtured, intentionally guided by two people who have decided they want to build something beautiful together. Love at our age requires intention, not just chemistry. It demands choice, not just compatibility. When a mature man says, "Let's see where this goes," he's revealing his fundamental approach to your connection: passive, non-committal, and ultimately self-serving. He wants to experience whatever goodness you bring to his life without taking any responsibility for protecting, nurturing, or developing what you're building together. This phrase is the relationship equivalent of emotional sharecropping. You do all the work of investing your heart, your time, your energy, your hope, while he simply shows up to enjoy whatever harvest your efforts produce. When the relationship bears fruit, he enjoys it. When it struggles, he can easily walk away because he never committed to tending it in the first place. Helen, 67, spent nearly a year trapped in this limbo with Richard. He would say, "Let's see where this goes," whenever I brought up anything about our future. Not demands, just gentle questions about how he saw us developing. I thought I was being patient and understanding, giving our connection room to grow naturally. But after months of going nowhere, I realized we weren't going anywhere because he had no intention of taking us anywhere. He was perfectly content with exactly what we had, which was me giving him companionship, affection, and emotional support, while he gave me nothing but uncertainty and false hope. What makes this phrase particularly insidious is how it makes you complicit in your own emotional neglect. It sounds like you're both equally invested in seeing what develops, but in reality, you're the only one actually investing. You're planning, hoping, adjusting your life to accommodate the relationship, while he's simply along for whatever ride you create. The truth is that when a man genuinely wants to build something meaningful with you, he doesn't want to passively see where things go. He actively works to create the relationship he envisions. He makes plans that include you. He has conversations about what you both want. He takes concrete steps towards building the future he desires with you in it. "Let's see where this goes" is what men say when they want to enjoy the journey you're creating without taking responsibility for the destination. It's a way of participating in a relationship without actually committing to one, of receiving love without offering it in return. At our age, you deserve someone who doesn't want to see where your relationship goes. You deserve someone who wants to deliberately, intentionally, joyfully build something beautiful with you. Someone who says, "I know exactly where I want this to go, and I want to get there together."
Phrase number 3. I don't want to hurt you. Of all the phrases that should make your blood run cold, this might be the most dangerous because it masquerades as tender concern while actually being a sophisticated form of emotional manipulation. When you hear these words from a man's lips, you're witnessing something chilling. Someone who has already decided to hurt you, telling you about it in advance to absolve himself of guilt. Think deeply about the psychology behind this phrase.
Someone who genuinely doesn't want to cause you pain doesn't announce their intention. They simply avoid causing pain. They make choices that honor your heart. They behave in ways that protect your well-being. They don't warn you about their potential to hurt you. They commit themselves to not hurting you. This phrase is actually a preemptive strike against accountability. It's a way of saying, I'm going to continue behaving in ways that don't serve your best interests, that diminish your sense of security, that leave you feeling uncertain and unvalued. But I'm telling you this so when you're inevitably hurt, you can't say, I didn't warn you. It's the emotional equivalent of someone saying, I don't want you to get wet while they're pointing a garden hose directly at you. The warning doesn't negate the action, it just makes the person with the hose feel better about soaking you. Margaret, 69, heard this phrase so many times it became like a recurring nightmare. Every time James would cancel our plans at the last minute, every time he'd fail to follow through on something important to me, every time he'd show up inconsistently in my life and leave me feeling uncertain about where I stood, he'd say, I don't want to hurt you, as if that magical phrase made his hurtful behavior acceptable, even caring. What makes this phrase particularly cruel is how it often triggers women to comfort the very person who's hurting them. When he says he doesn't want to hurt you, your compassionate instinct might be to reassure him, to tell him it's okay, to minimize your own pain, to make him feel better about causing it. You end up consoling him for his decision to harm you. But here's what this phrase really reveals about someone's character. They're aware their actions cause pain, they choose to continue those actions anyway, and they want credit for feeling bad about it doing it. It's like someone repeatedly stepping on your foot while expecting praise for saying ouch each time they do it. The most heartbreaking part is that this phrase often works. It makes women feel like they should be grateful for his honesty, understanding about his limitations, patient with his process. It transforms legitimate hurt into something you should feel guilty for experiencing, because, after all, he warned you. Margaret finally found her clarity. I realized that someone who truly didn't want to hurt me would simply stop doing things that hurt me. They wouldn't announce their good intentions while continuing their harmful behavior. They would change their actions, not just comment on them. At our age, when every day is precious and every relationship matters deeply, you deserve someone whose actions align with their stated intentions. You deserve someone who doesn't just say they don't want to hurt you, but who actively chooses behaviors that cherish, protect, and honor your heart. When someone truly loves you, they don't warn you about their potential to cause pain. They commit themselves wholeheartedly to being a source of joy, security, and deep contentment in your life.
Phrase number 4. You deserve better than me. This phrase might be the most psychologically complex manipulation in the entire arsenal of emotionally unavailable men, because it sounds like the height of humility and self-awareness while actually being a masterclass in avoiding responsibility and lowering expectations. When you truly understand the mechanics of how this phrase works, you'll recognize it as one of the cruelest forms of emotional manipulation disguised as care. On the surface, this seems like someone being honest about their limitations, perhaps even noble in their self-awareness. But let's examine what's really happening psychologically. When a man tells you that you deserve better than him, he's doing several devastating things simultaneously. He's positioning himself as the humble, self-aware person in the dynamic, while making you the demanding one if you agree with him. He's creating a scenario where you feel compelled to argue for worse treatment than you deserve. Most insidiously, he's telling you exactly how little he's planning to give you, while making you feel grateful for even that. This phrase is particularly devastating because it often triggers women's nurturing instincts. When he says, "You deserve better," everything in your caring nature wants to reassure him, to convince him of his worth, to prove that he's enough.
You find yourself in the surreal position of arguing against your own best interests, convincing someone to give you less than you deserve. Linda, 66, spent months trapped in this psychological maze with Thomas. He would regularly tell me I deserved better, usually right after disappointing me or failing to follow through on something important. Instead of agreeing with him and demanding better treatment, I found myself trying to convince him he was wonderful just as he was. I was literally arguing for worse treatment than I deserved, making his case for why I should accept less. But here's the truth that cuts through all the psychological manipulation. If someone genuinely believed you deserved better than what they're offering, they would either step up to become the person you deserve or step aside to let you find them. They wouldn't use their supposed inadequacy as a reason to keep you in a relationship where you're getting less than you're worth. This phrase reveals something profound about how someone views both you and themselves in the relationship. They see themselves as the fixed constant, flawed, limited, unable, or unwilling to grow. And they see you as the variable, who should adjust your expectations downward to accommodate their self-imposed limitations. What makes this particularly cruel at our age is that it weaponizes our wisdom against us. We've learned to accept people's flaws, to love imperfect humans, to find beauty in broken places. But there's a crucial difference between accepting someone's authentic struggles and accepting their refusal to try, between loving someone through their growth and enabling their stagnation. When Thomas would tell Linda she deserved better, he wasn't being humble. He was being manipulative. He was asking her to lower her standards while keeping her emotionally invested in proving those lowered standards were enough. He was essentially saying, I'm going to continue giving you minimal effort, and I'm going to make you feel bad for wanting more by framing your reasonable expectations as unreasonable demands. The phrase becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts. By constantly telling you that you deserve better while refusing to become better, he gradually erodes your sense of what you actually deserve. Over time, you begin to believe that wanting more is asking too much, that his limited offering is perhaps all anyone could reasonably expect. Linda's awakening came when she realized someone who truly believed I deserved better would want to become better for me, or they would love me enough to let me go find better. They wouldn't use their supposed inadequacy as a permanent excuse for giving me less than I'm worth. At this stage of our lives, you deserve someone who doesn't tell you that you deserve better. You deserve someone who is committed to becoming their best self because they recognize your worth. You deserve someone who sees your value and rises to meet it, not someone who sees your value and uses it to make you feel guilty for expecting them to try.
I'm just not good at relationships. This phrase represents perhaps the most sophisticated abdication of responsibility in the entire lexicon of emotional avoidance. It masquerades as vulnerable self-awareness while actually being a calculated strategy to avoid growth, effort, and accountability. When a man over 60 uses this phrase, he's not admitting a charming character flaw. He's announcing his intention to remain emotionally stagnant while expecting you to accept the consequences of his choice. Let's think deeply about what it means to be bad at relationships at our stage of life. We've had decades to learn, grow, and develop the skills that create healthy partnerships. We've experienced love, loss, heartbreak, and healing. We've had countless opportunities to understand what works and what doesn't, to recognize patterns that harm and behaviors that heal. By our 60s, being bad at relationships isn't an innocent personality trait. It's a deliberate choice to remain unevolved. This phrase is particularly insidious because it sounds like honest vulnerability. It seems like someone courageously admitting their limitations, taking responsibility for their shortcomings. But examine it more closely, and you'll see it's actually the opposite. It's a preemptive excuse for every future failure, disappointment, and hurt they'll cause. It's a way of saying, I'm going to continue behaving in ways that don't serve our relationship, and I've already told you why, so you can't hold me accountable.
Dorothy, 68, spent 2 years accepting this excuse from Robert before she understood its true nature. Whenever I brought up concerns about our relationship, when he was inconsistent, when he didn't communicate well, when he failed to make me feel like a priority, he would just shrug and say he wasn't good at relationships. He said it with such seeming honesty that I felt mean for expecting more. I thought I was being patient and understanding, accepting him as he was. But here's what Dorothy eventually realized. Someone who truly loved her wouldn't use their relationship limitations as an excuse. They would see those limitations as obstacles to overcome for her sake, for our sake. They would be embarrassed by their shortcomings, not comfortable with them. The phrase also creates a particularly cruel dynamic where your reasonable expectations become unreasonable demands. When you ask for basic relationship necessities, communication, consistency, emotional availability, future planning, he can dismiss your needs by pointing to his self-declared incompetence. You're not asking too much. He simply isn't good at relationships. Your standards become the problem, not his refusal to meet them. At this precious stage of our lives, when time has become our most valuable currency, you deserve someone who doesn't use their relationship limitations as permanent excuses. You deserve someone who sees their shortcomings as challenges to overcome, who views becoming a better partner as a worthy investment of their remaining years. The right man won't tell you he's bad at relationships. He'll be too busy showing you how good he can become at loving you specifically, intentionally, and with all the wisdom his years have given him.
These 5 phrases represent more than just words. They're sophisticated psychological strategies designed to keep you invested in relationships that serve men's needs while avoiding giving you what you truly deserve. They're ways of managing your expectations downward while keeping your hopes alive just enough to maintain your emotional investment. At our age, we've earned the wisdom to recognize these patterns and the courage to reject them. We know that life is too short and too precious to spend it with people who use words to avoid commitment, responsibility, or genuine partnership. You deserve someone whose words align with their actions, whose promises match their behavior, whose love shows up not just in what they say, but in how they consistently choose to treat you. The right man won't need to warn you about his limitations or manage your expectations. He'll be too busy exceeding them. If this video opened your eyes to these manipulation tactics and helped you recognize what you truly deserve in love, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more wisdom about navigating relationships after 60. Share this video with other amazing women in your life who deserve to understand these patterns. Together, we can help each other recognize genuine love and refuse to accept anything less. Remember, when someone shows you who they are through these phrases, believe them and choose yourself instead. Your heart, your time, and your remaining years are far too precious to waste on someone who can't fully appreciate the incredible woman you are. I'll see you in our next video where we'll continue exploring how to create the authentic, loving relationships we all deserve at this beautiful stage of life.